In this video, we're going to be reviewing some basic commands. These commands are the polyline, the arch, polygons, circles, and ellipse. The first one we're going to look at is the polyline, which differs from the line in that it is a little bit more complicated and as such gives you some more options. So let's just look at the line command. If we type in L, it's going to draw the same way as far as location, looking for coordinates, and then we can go and put in the polar coordinates, or we can put in another coordinate as well. And if we click on it, we notice that they're individual segments and they're lines. Now the polyline, which can be launched either up here, okay, but the more desirable way is just put in PL for polyline and hit the space bar, and you notice it draws it very similarly. But the difference here is a couple things different. If we click on it, now the whole line and its segments are together, poly. And we can still pull the grips and adjust them as such. So just a little bit different on the grips as well. So please explore that. Okay. And very similar as well. The other difference between lines and polylines is that it does take up a little more memory with polylines. Keep that in mind. But all in all, the polyline is probably the more common one that we use. Now, the other option we can do with polylines is we can mix it up with a combination of lines. And as you note, as we're going along here, let's take a look at this command line. We have a number of options. Arch, which is different. The close, which we have on the line as well. And half widths, lengths, undo, and width. So we're gonna explore a couple of these. The first one we're going to do is the arch. So now if I hit A, it's going to be drawing arcs, okay? And then I can switch back to line and drew lines, okay? And it's all connected together, okay? So this can be very useful when you need to mix the different geometries as well, and can prove to be very useful. Again, polyline. And you'll also note, besides the command line when we're drawing it, you can also hit the down arrow when you have dynamic inputs on and get these same options. Okay, the next one I like to explore is the width. Now the half width and the width are pretty much related. I just usually use width. So width would be the total width of my line, and the half width would just be half of it. So it's the difference between diameter and radius. I just prefer width. Okay, so if I click on this, now it's asking me what is the start width going to be and what is the end width. So if we want to keep them the same, so in this case I'm going to do 1, okay, and then specify the end width as 1, it's going to create a line with a width of 1. Okay, so if we were to measure this one using the distance inquiry tool, DI, not a little quick tool we use, it's a thickness of 1. Now if I wanted to use the half width, I'd have to put in 0.5. So I don't see a real reason to do that. And if I did the polyline command again, guess what? It's going to be the same width. So how do we get that back to a normal width that we saw before? Well, polyline, start that, then type in width, and then enter a width of 0 and an end width of 0. Okay, and you're back to what your default was. It's also nice to sometimes mix in the use of the start and end width. So I can do that for you now. So I do polyline. I'm going to start with 0 here, and then go with a width of, say, let's do 0.5. And you'll notice it kind of creates sort of like an arrow. And then I can do a width. I can change it so each segment can be different. Go to 0 and width of 0. And you can create, something like this with that. So you can vary the width, which is kind of nice. And again, it's all one object. Okay. So very useful. Again, polyline, very powerful. I'd say go ahead and explore that. Another feature of polyline I want to cover real quick is that, yes, I have all these segments, and If I want to, I can use what we call the explode command, X, and I can break them up into lines again. And if I want to redo it, type in join. Okay, so that is a very useful command, okay, the polyline. The arc command, while not the most common command, is used, and sometimes I usually like to use the drop-down menu because you can see the different varieties of how to draw the arc, okay? So I generally probably use this probably the most. If I am using the arc command, it's ARC for my shortcut, and it's going to default to what we call the 3-point arc, okay? And you can see that here, the first one. But to define an arc, you need at least 3 pieces of information. It varies from the start, center, end. You can do center, start, end, but usually you have to have a start, okay? So if you have these 3 pieces of information, you can define the geometry of an arc, okay? And if you click on it with its grips, you'll notice you've got a number of different options here. You can change the length of my arc. I can change the position of my arc. I can change the radius of my arc. I can change, the end point of my arc. So all those are available. The default direction for arches is, I believe, counterclockwise, and you hold the control down to do the opposite. So again, not used a whole lot, but can be. And again, we use that in conjunction with the polyline. And because there's so many varieties, I do tend to use my drop-down menu more so than others because of that difference.